Connecting community through business, building relationships, and building Waterloo Region. 570 News presents Business to Business, powered by Save on Energy. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
And welcome to Business on 570 News, powered by Save on Energy. Got a great show for you today. A man who has really gained a lot of attention for his what I would call courageous stand on allocating funds to the right places, and has his own opinion on rapid transit in Waterloo Region. Cambridge Mayor Doug Craig is going to join us in the show. He's waiting to come on. We're going to have him for 2 full breaks. Don't miss this.
No, absolutely.
He has a lot to say about where regional tax money is going, a lot to say about the LRT and the rapid transit project as a whole, and where some of the money allocated for that project could and should be going. We talked about it last week. The poor, arts and culture, to name 2 areas. And so we were delighted to have Mayor Craig with us later in the program. And to kick things off, normally we have a representative to speak about Save on Energy from one of the local hydro companies, Waterloo North, Kitchener-Wilmot, and Cambridge North Dumfries. But this time around, we're going to go in a slightly different direction.
Well, I'm really excited to have Mike Morse from Sustainable Waterloo with us this morning. We've had some interesting conversations, and in fact, today, Mike's setting the example of what we all should be thinking about. Rode here on his bicycle in the freezing cold.
I want to commend you for that.
I do too.
I'm part of that mindset, but I draw the line when it gets to be minus 12.
But apparently Mike doesn't. So, Mike, it's great to have you here with us this morning.
Thanks for having me here.
Now, you're working on something very interesting, and this is not maybe so focused narrowly, but we'll get to that in a minute. But maybe talk about the climate action plan from a broad perspective, maybe Ontario-wide.
Sure. So I think what we're seeing provincially and federally is a lack of these kinds of plans being set and put in place. And so in provinces across in cities across the province and the country, increasingly you're seeing these kinds of actions plans put in place. And so 4 years ago, we started some conversations with each of our 3 cities in the region and Reap Green Solutions to say, what would it look like for us to move away from individual actions, maybe the car share happening over here, maybe a bike share happening here, maybe rapid transit there, and actually have a common platform for all these actions, and then to put it under the lens of not just climate change, but this is an economic plan, this is a culture plan, this is local energy security. There's something here in everyone's best interest. And so it took us about 4 years to put together this plan that sets out, here's all the things that are already happening in Waterloo Region that are reducing our carbon footprint. Here is our total carbon footprint. Greg, do you have a sense of what our total carbon...
No, I'm almost afraid to hear it. But
so it's 3.6 million tons. We know exactly where it all comes from. 40% is from transportation. 20-some-odd% from workplaces, 20-some-odd from our homes. There's a little bit of agriculture, a little bit of waste. And so now that we have that in place, we can then say, okay, what are the things we can do as a community that is in our economic best interest, as well as in reducing our carbon footprint as well, and put that all together and actually set a goal. And so those conversations were had over the past 4 years with task forces and working groups, with talking to the chambers of commerce, talking to neighborhood associations, talking to the region and the cities. And this is, from my point of view, one of the most inspiring parts of this story is that we now have all 3 cities and the region together who've agreed on a common target to reduce our carbon footprint. And now we have a platform to say, okay, if the next person has the next great idea to engage business in reducing their carbon footprint, or to work with homeowners, and we'll talk about Save on Energy in a bit, now we've got a common platform for us all to work from.
Mike, for those who aren't familiar, can you just tell us who Sustainable Waterloo Region is, what your mandate is, and secondly, Climate Action WR, Climate Action Waterloo Region. Tell us, is that a spinoff from Sustainable Waterloo Region?
You got it. And so Sustainable Waterloo Region started up 5 years ago as an organization that was looking to say that businesses measure everything else that matters to them, and they to benefit by reducing their environmental footprint. Why don't we help them to measure where they're at and plug them into a network of support? And so, yes, there are the green pieces of the world that take the more confrontational approach, but we think there's an opportunity and a support that would be meaningful for business to learn from one another. Mm-hmm. And so Sustainable Waterloo Region brings together organizations to help them go from having an interest in reducing their environmental impact to action. And our flagship program today has been the Regional Carbon Initiative, where businesses across the community, 13% of the workforce now, are working towards setting targets to reduce their carbon impact. In total, everything from Sun Life to Home Hardware to Ernst & Young, reducing their environmental impact by 45,000 tons. And so Climate Action, WR, was a natural next step for us, where with our engagement with the business community in place already, we then reached out to Reap Green Solutions, who's been engaging residents for the past 10 years, and then working with the region as well. Then this became kind of the next step, and now Climate Action WR is a collaborative between those three groups, as well as the cities of Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo, looking to put in place a region-wide climate change action, which we've now done.
There's some really good examples of the more pure business attitude around this. You know, you and I, Mike, have talked about Veriform in Cambridge, who, you know, a steel fabricator who has done some remarkable things, and not only reducing his carbon footprint there, but dramatically reducing his overhead costs of energy use, which has really become a bottom line profit center for him.
In fact, Veriform's story is so good, they have reduced their carbon footprint by 60% and doubled their profit at the same time in an industry whose margins are only 3%.
Exactly.
So those are stories.
And tell us a little bit about what Paul Rack from Veriform, what's his goal?
He's looking to reduce his carbon by 100% to be carbon neutral over the course of 10 years between 2006 and 2016.
Yeah, and Paul looks at it as a business platform as well. This is pure business.
This is a competitive advantage for them, and for our community.
What's in it for business to go
saving money,
to go green up?
Save on energy. You know, it really speaks to what the three electric utilities are talking about.
Well, does it go further than that?
I think
in terms of imaging.
I think it absolutely does. So you start with direct payback. Project costs X. You save energy by Y within X years. Great. A company like Ernst & Young, though, they're not in this because it's going to save them tons of money.
No.
They know that local young accountants, Gen Ys, are looking to them to say, what kind of environmental strategy do you have? And if it can be a competitive advantage for them with their younger workforce, they want to be ahead of that. Likewise, they know that Waterloo Region residents, this is a branding exercise, too, to understand they want to line up their values against customers, supply chain, constituents. And so I think it does go broader. There's also, of course, the risk. We have Walmarts of the world that are actually putting in place requirements of their supply chain, asking them what their carbon footprint is and if they've got a target to reduce already. So I think you start with the simple stuff. How much money am I going to save? And then you can really build on it beyond that.
Well, I think what it is it's a support mechanism for business to be able to say, look, I know I need to do this. All my new recruits, because you and I were having a discussion about this in my office about, you know, the Gen Ys who are coming into the workplace now. One of their questions of their future employer is, what strategies do you have? What environmental strategies do you have to make this world a better place? Yeah. And I think, you know, what we're looking at is businesses now saying, yes, you know what? I can do that. I can help and reduce my carbon footprint, but I can also parlay that into a true business solution of saving money as well.
And that as we do that, that starts to then increase the norm. So look at the insurance sector locally. We have 7 of the 10 biggest insurance companies who are now participating in the Regional Carbon Initiative, working towards setting targets. So now when I go to a Rotary Club and I present what we're doing, I usually get the question of, where's that 8th largest insurance company? How are they not a part of this? And so increasingly, as it's in each individual business's best interest, like a Paul Rack, they then benefit. That then kind of builds the wave of momentum that then kind of raises the bar for all. And we know that the low-carbon economy is growing faster than the rest of the economy is. So then for Waterloo Region, it becomes a competitive advantage. When the next solar manufacturer looks to site their next plant, our community is the only one Ontario-wide that has businesses setting targets to reduce their carbon footprint. That's a marketplace. That's creating demand for solutions, whether it's insulation or windows or whatever the case is, for businesses to then supply the kinds of products that will help companies and regions to then look at putting in place products that will help them achieve those goals.
Let's talk a little bit about the what our sponsors, the Save on Energy folks, the 3 electric utilities, what they're doing.
So it's absolutely critical that in tandem with local grassroots solutions like the one I'm talking about, that we have then provincial incentives in place to help a business go a step further. And through Save On Energy, I guess there's 2 lenses to look at it through. First of all, in that wider climate action plan, this 6% target we've set, we've then said, okay, what are the actions? What are we doing that are going to help us allow us to meet that goal? One of the biggest actions that's going to help us achieve the most tons of carbon reduced and money back into businesses' pockets is the Save On Energy in incentives. What it does, everything from lighting retrofits to actually paying for an energy manager to be on site in your business. They will fund you. I think it's up to 80% of that person's actual wage. It's huge.
Wow.
And so,
and that's our local electric utilities.
Yeah, and so that helps. Okay, you got the Paul Racks of the world that are way ahead of the game, that are going to do it regardless. To bring others in line, you need incentives like that make the business case that much stronger. And so that's available through Waterloo North Hydro, Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro, Cambridge North Dumfries Hydro, and they're literally just waiting for a business to come to them to say, here's a project I want to do. They payback is already maybe 4 years. With this incentive, wow, now it's down to 1.
Where can people get a copy of the Climate Action Plan?
They can go to climateactionwr.ca. There's a
You've got
summary
it in,
version.
it's in PDF and booklet form. People actually want to read it, right?
Go a step further than that. There's a summary version form for you and I who might want to only read 20 pages or so. And then there's the full one that's the full 72, the whole kit. And so they can get both access to both versions of it there. There's also links
the website
there.
Again.
climateactionwr.ca.
Right.
From there, you can also then link through to the different programs we've talked about. We've talked about Car Share and Save On Energy. That's all linked through that same site.
And they can also go to your homepage, sustainablewaterlooregion.ca. Lots of great information there, sustainablewaterlooregion.ca.
Awesome. I know Mike was very excited to see Mayor Craig in the studio this morning because one of the early adopters in signing on to this program as well.
The City of Cambridge is one of 4 that unanimously supported this climate action plan. I think this is an inspiring story that needs to be told. We have every politician in town agreeing this is in everyone's best interest.
Congratulations, Your Worship.
Before we go very quickly, you came here on your bike. You're aware, no doubt, of the efforts by the City of Kitchener to create those the bike access on King Street. Now there's a proposal by another organization for separate bike lanes in Waterloo. Do you think enough's being done to create a cycling community? Because I know that Kitchener's done a lot in that regard.
We're on that path, and I'm seeing it across every city. The City of Cambridge is doing more too. We are looking at more active transportation options, more complete streets, recognizing that asphalt is there for multiple users of the road, cars, buses, bikes, and I'm thrilled to see it all.
Right, Mike, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Mike Morris of Sustainable Waterloo Region has been our guest as we address the environment and save on energy. Thanks for your time today. When we come back, a man who has been in the news quite a lot lately and has a lot to say about how the region spends its
been
money.
Around for years and years and years in the political field as
the
well.
man is forthright. You know what you're going to, you're going to get the straight goods, and he's not afraid to ruffle a few feathers.
No, we're going to have lots of fun.
If he feels he's has something to say, and if he feels he's in the right, he's not afraid to speak his mind. Exactly. We're delighted to have Cambridge Mayor Doug Craig with us. He's coming up next, and thanks again to Mike. You're listening to Business, powered by Save On Energy on 570 News.
We'll be right back with more Business to Business, powered by Save On Energy. Call in with your questions at star 570, 570-2545, or 1-800-570-5715. You're listening to Business, powered by Save On Energy, featuring local businesses, solutions, and success stories, connecting community through business on 570 News.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News, powered by Save On Energy. Our next guest, Cambridge Mayor Doug Craig, here to talk about a lot of things, and we'll get to his recent open letter to Regional Council. But first, there's a lot going on in the city of Cambridge, especially at this time of year, that we want to talk about.
Well, it's that time of year, Glenn.
Yeah,
we're all, doing you're shopping every single day, and you're fighting the crowds, but there's lots of festivities going on. There's lots of challenges as well that people are facing, and I think Mayor Craig talked a little bit about that. But first of all, I think we want to give His Worship the opportunity to talk about the good things at Cambridge and what's going on. And
by the way, were you, when you were a councillor, was this pre-Mayor Craig, or was this?
No, Doug and I.
So
sat,
you guys actually,
we sat together.
You had to put up with this guy.
And it was really difficult.
We sat side by side.
Yeah, we did actually.
Yeah, we were talking every single minute of a council meeting. He was trying to convince me his way, and I was trying to convince him my way, and
Let me guess how that went.
Anyways.
No, it was great. Doug and I served for, my entire time on council for 10 years. Doug and I, because around the council horseshoe, it's done in alphabetical order.
Mm-hmm.
So Craig, Durocher, we sat side by side the entire 10 years, and it was great. We had lots of fun.
We did well. Anyways, the good season we're in right now. I just want you to know that I have bought all my wife's Christmas presents.
You have?
So that's a first for myself, and I have told my wife that, and she's very pleased with me.
Has she bought you yours?
No, she hasn't. But anyways, we'll work on that. Those are kind of the good things. But you know what? It is a great time of the year, and we reflect on a lot of on relationships. We reflect on things that are happening in the community. Christmas in Cambridge is happening right now. We've had the holiday train in. We've had the music and lights in the village in Hespeler. We had the Hespeler Santa Claus parade yesterday. We had we had the Cambridge parade a few weeks ago back, about a month ago. We're looking forward to Kris Kringle starting on Friday. And these are all good things. Candyland was Saturday. So these are things, and they're free events for everybody. And I think that's the important part. And all of these events, they attract a certain segment of the population. Obviously, yourself, Greg, you wouldn't be going to Candyland, but you may be going, with your wife somewhere else.
He's been advised not to go to Candyland.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So these
the holiday train, though, is interesting because it's not just for you. It's not just showing up at the holiday train. You actually come in on the holiday train.
I go down to Milton, and we take this year, I think we took about 15 children down, and different children from across the city of Cambridge. And we ride the train in, and it's a thrill for them, and it's a thrill for the parents who get to come along with them. Santa Claus is on the train. And then, of course, the big thing is not only is it a celebration of the Christmas season with the music that is provided by CP Rail on one of the boxcars, the side comes down, but it's also a time when people donate to the food bank, and CP Rail this year made a donation on monies of $7,000, which is huge for the local food bank. So really pleased about the whole thing.
And we spent a lot of time on this radio station talking about the food bank of Waterloo Region.
Right.
We should point out that Cambridge has its own collection of very hardworking people involved with the Cambridge Self-Help Food Bank.
Yeah, it's
right?
a self-help food bank.
It's a separate entity altogether with its own set of challenges.
And what they do down there, they run. We talk about bang for the buck. When you get to things like the food bank, the shelter, social planning council, we get a tremendous feedback from these people, and we certainly do well. The community does well in terms of what they give back. The food bank is seeing numbers rise. That's the other part of the story. They were into buying food at some points this year because they weren't getting the donations, so that everything that does happen in terms of donations at Holiday Train or other things, it's really important to keep the food bank moving and keeping it on a level when it can help the community. One of the interesting things that happened to me about 3 or 4 years ago is they put me on a diet, and Greg, you should have been on it too. But anyways, they put me on a diet. Not a diet. It was a regular meal allowance. I shouldn't say diet. A regular meal allowance that people that go to the food bank get, and we had to stick to it for about 3 or 4 days with strict rules. And if you could find free food in the community, you could add that to your diet. So we were down at Oktoberfest eating sausages one night, things like that to supplement. But it's a very, very restrictive diet. It's very difficult for people to stay on in terms of the fact that it's not what you're used to. And for me, on a personal experience, walking into that experience, it certainly gave me a new sensitivity I hadn't understood before.
What is your sense post-recession about the level of stress and anxiety and among the working poor and people?
Well, I think we just saw an article in the Record Saturday, about the health benefits or health concerns in the regional community about stress and how this community is not faring as well as a number of other communities. People who are at restricted incomes have a lot of stress. I mean, some of the really sad phone calls I get are from single moms who are going to lose the place where they're living in with 3 children, and can I help? These kinds of things that happen on a regular basis.
We had our annual mayor's breakfast this past week, and That's where you basically host two visiting mayors. We had Mayor Brenda Halloran, and we had Mayor Bob Ratina from Hamilton as well. But you were, what really struck me, Doug, and I could really see it, certainly hear it in your voice, but also see it in your face when you closed off your little talk and you talked about the real care and concern that you have for those who are especially at this time of year, who are really challenged with economic issues. And you talked about senior citizens, the growing number of senior citizens who are accessing the shelters and the food banks, and I guess from my perspective, it really that was almost like the door slamming on your foot kind of reaction that I had internally, where I thought, we go along our everyday and we accept what we have, and we're always looking for that big gift that our kids want, or whatever the case may be. But it was a real shock to certainly see in your face and hear in your voice how concerned you are.
Well, I think we have to always have balance in life. And, we can talk about how well we're doing, and we're doing well. I think the city of Cambridge, this region, relative to most of the country, is doing relatively well. And we can talk about those things. We can talk about new development. We can talk about new infrastructure. We can talk about our families. But we also have to, in terms of balance, remember there's another side here. We have 800 families on a waiting list in Cambridge, not in the region, in Cambridge alone, waiting for affordable housing. We have our shelter full every night. And what they're seeing is a growing phenomena of seniors and families using the shelter. We have the food bank now on occasion buying food because they're not getting the donations. So there is a need, there is a desire out there that we have to deal with in terms of improving things.
And it's not just at this time of year.
We're going to come back and talk more about that because, and this is a perfect segue in that Mr. Craig recently wrote an open letter to Regional Council saying that proposed tax cuts next year unfairly target the poor, among other sectors. And so we're going to come back and get the mayor's thoughts on that and more as Business to Business continues, powered by Save On Energy on 570 News.
Business to Business, powered by Save On Energy, a presentation of 570 News. Watch the live video webcast at 570news.com. We'll return with more Business to Business. Not just what you know, it's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News, powered by Save On Energy.
And welcome back to Business on 570 News. Great to have you with us. We're in conversation with Cambridge Mayor Doug Craig, who has brought the Rapid Transit Project back into the news recently, tabling a notice of motion. Was it last week, Mayor Craig?
Yes. It's gone in it'll be dealt with on Wednesday of this coming week.
He gave a notice of motion calling on the region, basically not to spend the $5.5 million it plans to put into a rapid transit reserve fund next year, because the money could be spent in other areas, namely, two main areas you mentioned in your motion. The poor and disadvantaged in arts and culture, and we're talking about just the severity of the plight of a lot of people that have not recovered from the recession.
Well, and I think what was interesting is Your Worship, you've always been you've always been touted as the one against the LRT system or the rapid transit system as it's proposed. It's not that you're against some sort of public transportation system, but as it's proposed. But you're in this motion, you're recognizing that this is going to go ahead, but we need to delay it, because it's odd that the amount that's being allocated towards the LRT or the rapid transit model is the same as what Regional Council is trying to cut out of the budget, $5.5 million.
Well, they're supposed to each year put into a reserve fund approximately $5.5 million. And of course, what I'm saying, I'm not trying to stop the LRT. The economic atmosphere and the economic reality right now is actually stopping the LRT in some respects. And I'm saying to Regional Council, look at it. It's staring you in the face. You can't afford the scope and the pace of the LRT that's proposed. It's that straightforward. It's that simple. So what I'm saying to them is slow it down, defer the $5.5 million and give us the $5.5 $5 million. Leave it in the budget this year. Find other mechanisms in the budget over this year to find that for next year further savings, so that you can put money into your rapid transit if you wish to do that. And you need to really start realizing that the programs you're cutting are programs that are in the mainstream that people in the regional community want to see happen.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. And I was really I'll be really frank, I was very disappointed in the budget when it came out. As the mayor of the city of Cambridge, if a budget like that came across my table, I wouldn't have sent it out to the public forum. I would have sent it back and said, rework this. This isn't going to fly. And so now we've got about 20 delegations coming on Wednesday, all from social agencies. I applaud them. I'm glad they're coming, because they're coming to give council a message that a number of us already understand, that you just can't cut certain fundings.
We've seen this, in the past a lot, and when I sat on council with you, of course, we had lots of years where we looked at our capital budget and we said, yes, we wanted to do that this year, but it's just not going to happen. We just don't have the money, and we put it off for a year. Not that it didn't need to be done, not that we didn't want to do it. It was just, I guess, comparing it to what you would do in your own home is if your roof is leaking, you need a new roof. So you're not going to go out and buy a new car until you fix the roof.
That's correct. Yeah.
You need to put off the wants to make sure you can take care of the needs, and that's really what you're saying.
Well, essentially, that's correct. I mean, we have to look at this with much more balance, much more perspective. I think regional council needs to realize that some of these things can be deferred for a year. Even the $5.5 million can be deferred. They're going to all jump up and down, and the staff already are jumping up and down, saying don't do this. But I think, and I said to them also, I have another motion. Look at the rapid transit project. Why can't we shorten the route initially to save money? Why can't we look at changing the way we're doing some of the stations, whatever it may be, to shave money out of that, so you don't need so much money to put into it? There are things along that line. See, what people, I think, are failing to understand, even at the regional council table, the cost of the rapid transit system just isn't the $818 million. It's the operating cost.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a 30-year commitment, and if we don't have the ridership, that's where it's going to hit home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to hurt everybody in the regional community, even the townships, in terms of what's being proposed.
Well, Mayor Craig, for those who aren't as well-versed on the subject, you use the term the $5.5 million. You use that. Can you explain to our listeners what
we're doing is
we're
putting in $5.5 million, and we started, I think, 3 years ago, and it goes up to $218 to build up kind of a reserve fund for. So when we start buying some of the vehicles for the rapid transit line, those monies will be there to purchase it right away. So it's kind of I don't want to use the word slush fund, but it's a reserve fund to help finance what's going on.
And you're saying of some of that $5.5 million could be better used.
Of course it can be better used. It's about downsizing the attitude. It's about downsizing the project somewhat. It's a democratic system. This council has voted for a rapid transit line, and they have voted to put in the technology that they voted on. They've taken trains over buses. And I accept that now. We've gone that route, but there are modifications that can be made. I think this thing is starting to unravel somewhat in terms of what we're seeing, because we have a staff document just came out talking about the in-house estimates are only estimates. That's why this reserve fund is so badly needed.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm thinking, well, what do you mean by in-house estimates? It should be a lot more. I'm just concerned about what I'm hearing.
So what specific things that regional council has on the table now to cut, really give you some concern?
Well, I think it's the discretionary funding to the poor. I mean, these were cut, and you can't just simply dump it on regional council. I want to be clear about that. It's the province doing cutbacks,
mm-hmm. and
they reshape programs. And when you come to the bottom line of how these programs have been reshaped, you're short $1 million. And so you put $1 million in. And it used to be a $5 million funding level, now last year it was down to $4 million. Now this year it's down to $3 million, and it's getting to a point where it's really hurting a lot of people. So it's a matter of putting those monies back in and saying that as a regional community, we believe in supporting the needy throughout the year, and that's essentially what we're up to. The arts and culture, some of those programs, dental programs, have got money is going into the roads in terms of infrastructure that we already recognize as deficient is being cut, and all of this at the same time. They want to add I-Express routes into their rapid transit line as new issue papers. I'm saying just forget all that for now. Slow it down, think about it, and let's look at a direction that we can all agree on that has balance.
Do you think some of these issues are centered around some of the organizations that have had difficulty recently and had to do some layoffs? And we should be, really considering some of these social programs because we do have I don't know how many thousands of people laid off from BlackBerry, for example.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think BlackBerry is a good example. I mean, we have numerous people have been laid off, and there's more layoffs to come, from what I understand. We see industry going offshore. We have young people that can't get jobs. That's a phenomenon in Canada, in the region of Waterloo, that we really seriously have to look at. And of course, there's a need out there to support all these people. Mm-hmm. And I'm totally in favor of doing that.
What kind of reaction have you been getting, just in the wake of this notice of motion?
Well, the notice of motion. First of all, I'll be getting a negative reaction at the regional table. I know that. I mean, I'm not out there to. I think the point of the motions is to say, look, there are ways you can look at this. You may not accept in totality what I'm saying, but I want you to accept part of it, and I think they will. Okay, they're going to put money. I believe they'll put money back in for the discretionary funding, as an example. I think they'll understand that that arts and culture, which is the very creative spark of the community, has to be there. And I think they can look at other things. I've asked for a reduction in staff at the region, and I'm not saying throw people on the street. I'm saying through a natural process of attrition, you can reduce your staff.
You've been on that train for a
long time. Yeah, longer than the LRT
train. You have some specific statistics to talk about.
Well, the region has hired over 540 people, FTEs, full-time equivalents, since 2000, and it's almost double the rate of all the other municipalities. I've said repeatedly at the region, let's freeze the hiring for this year, and they're hiring, and they keep on hiring. This year they're looking at hiring even more. And that's even though we're cutting back in other areas. And so I'm saying to the regional community and at the council table that, we need to really understand that we can do a lot more with less, and we can do it if we get at it.
All right, we're going to come back with more with our special guest, Cambridge Mayor Doug Craig. You are listening to Business, powered by Save On Energy on 570 News.
We'll be right back with more Business to Business, powered by Save On Energy. Call in with your questions at star 570, 570-2545, or 1-800-570-5715. Creates a strong Waterloo region, and when businesses support each other, they support the community. Now back to Business, powered by Save On Energy on 570 News.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News. We're with Greg Durocher, President, CEO of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce. Ian McLean, President of the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce, is vacationing right now in the beautiful island of Oahu. And Mayor Craig, the Mayor of Cambridge, has been our guest. We just want to recap very quickly for our listeners. You tabled a notice of motion last week asking what, because it's going to be voted on next week. What were you?
Well, I've asked for 4 motions, one dealing with the reserve fund, essentially the $5.5 million be deferred. I have a motion in with regards to the looking at a 3-year budgeting process so that you know from year to year what's going to happen, so we don't end up with a surprise year as we have this year. I have 2 other notices of motion in.
Okay. So primarily it's the $5.5 million reserve fund. You want that deferred, and money's used elsewhere.
Yeah, and also I've asked if they would look at the rapid transit to shrink it a bit, so we could save money there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and it'll be voted on this coming.
Well, I would think it'll be voted on. That's for sure.
And how do you think that's going to go, man?
Well, you know what? Like I said earlier, I don't expect all the motions to pass. The point is, it's to get the discussion out there, and it's get people interested in what's happening at the regional table, and it's to look for the support from the public in terms of some of the really key issues which deal with the poor, arts and culture, roads, rehabilitation.
Very good. It's going to be an interesting week at a regional council. But what else is exciting in the city of Cambridge?
Well, everything's exciting. I just was at an opening 2 weeks ago. I think it was about 3 weeks ago with Rick Kelso, Donna Reed. We were up there in Hespeler at the Smithies Mall next to Tim Hortons, probably the luckiest Tim Hortons in southwestern Ontario. A new store going in, 70,000 square feet, which is called SAIL, S-A-I-L. It's an outdoors store that has every range of equipment from kayaks to coats to
knapsacks and
everything. They don't have just one kayak. They have every brand of kayaks there. It's a huge enterprise, very successful. It's a destination store. I even drove down to Burlington last year, and my wife I picked out a coat. She thought it was, that she paid for, which was kind of nice. But it's great for that area, and it's now going to start. It's going to be an incubation for other stores coming into the Smithies Mall.
Yeah,
which is terrific.
Finally, to see some great development on that particular piece of property is great. We got the Lowe's store opening soon.
The Lowe's is opening in February. I've talked to them, and we're all anxious to see that what's happening there. And we have the old post office down in the old Galt area that's being.
Now, this is of interest to me. Formerly Fiddler's Green, right? It used to be the Fiddler's Green.
I was never in there like Greg.
The Fiddler's Green nightclub. They were talking about the old post office.
That's correct.
Built in 1885 or something to that effect in downtown Galt. What's going on with that?
Well, it was built. The architect was a guy named, I think it was Thomas Fuller, and he did the Parliament buildings in Ottawa. So it's a nationally designated building in a state of disrepair.
It's a gorgeous building.
It's
I've been
wonderful
inside
building.
I've been up in the attic. It's historic. It's beautiful.
What were you doing up in the attic?
Looking for Emily? Were you looking for Emily?
No, I'm in a part-time rock and roll outfit, and we used to play there.
Oh, really?
And
good for you.
the change room is way up.
Okay.
But it's a gorgeous building overlooking the river.
And what we're doing is that we've decided to rehabilitate the heritage aspects. It's going to be about a $6 million job to bring it back to its former prime. And we're doing an expansion for the library there. Instead of the library expanding and expropriating property where it now is downtown, we're going to take that $6 million and we're going to put it into the building and expand the old post office, the volume. But we're doing it in consultation with a heritage architect and with a regular architect, and with the National Trust will be involved. So what we're looking at is probably glass around the back, which will enclose, which will increase the volume. And we'll have a patio, indoor patio out over the river, that sort of thing, which will be part of that whole structure. It's going to be lovely.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think it's an exciting use of that building that's had some challenges with the tenants over the last.
Another thing,
years.
if you haven't been to Hespeler in a while, that particular part of Cambridge is going through a rejuvenation. You've got the major condo project down by the river.
Ahead, by Shockey Fahal. He's got the old building there that he is going to be renovating very shortly, from what I understand. He's got all his approvals in place. I think they're putting in over 110 condominiums right on the river. Beautiful stone building. We're doing the streetscaping there in 215, but we're not talking about piecemealing it. We're now talking about, if we're going to do it, let's do the whole thing in 1 year. So it'll be a major influx of capital going into the streetscaping. And you have, which is the untold jewel of the whole region, in my opinion, is the Mill Pond area up there. And a lot of people just simply aren't aware of it. It's as gorgeous as any place, as Riverside Park or the downtown area in the Galt area. Absolutely. And we'll be seeing how we can open up that more for the public.
Yeah, and that's what it probably takes, something to bring some use to it, aspects to it, and I think that's terrific as well.
Okay, in the meantime, 'tis the season.
Yes, it is.
On behalf of the Cambridge Self-Help Food Bank, your message to listeners right now
is to remember that there are people out there that need our support, our help, our financial donations. There are people out there that are looking for volunteers to help people who are needy. I think that's my message right now for this time of the year.
All right. Remember, support the Cambridge Self-Help Food Bank. There is definitely a need.
Support, yes. There's lots of people in need.
Among various other options for you. It is the season, so give that some consideration. We could continue talking for another hour or two with Mayor Craig. It's always the case when you chat with Mr. Craig, but we have to bid a fond farewell at this time, and we wish you a very, very
Always
Merry
a
Christmas.
pleasure.
And best of luck in the future. And again, that vote on your motion taking place this coming week at Regional Council. Cambridge Mayor Doug Craig has been our guest on Business to Business, powered by Save On Energy. Our thanks to Matthew and to Adam Rochon producing and Catherine Drake producing the show today. Matt Carey has been doing the radio side of things. Thanks to him. And thanks to you for listening. Greg, we'll see you next Sunday.
You will.
You've been listening to Business, powered by Save On Energy on 570 News.